So now we come to what is, in my opinion, so far the worst, or at least the weakest, of the Hammer Dracula films. Dracula A.D. 1972, which of course came out in 1972. It's the 7th Dracula film overall from Hammer. Of course, the 6th with Christopher Lee. This marks the return of Peter Cushing as Van Helsing. Well, the opening, he's Van Helsing. The rest of the film, he's the grandson of Van Helsing. But he was in Brides of Dracula, which Christopher Lee was not. So this is the first time both of them have been together in Dracula since Horror of Dracula back in 1958, 14 years prior. And I mean, I guess when you're 7 films in and you sort of beat the formula into the ground, which tends to happen, you gotta find another way to change it up, which I think by this point was Escape from the Planet of the Apes didn't come out till the following year, 73, but sort of a similar idea. Because Escape from Planet of the Apes, they send Zira and Cornelius to present-day America, which was 1973. So it came out a year later, but Planet of the Apes did it much better than Hammer did with Dracula, with that idea of trying to contemporize the series and the character, see what they do in modern-day settings. Just basically, the film opens up, and you have this chase on this battle on a stagecoach that's just going down the trail. Horses are running between Dracula and Van Helsing. They both end up being mortally wounded, but so they both die. But at that point, of course, Dracula's personal effects fall off him, like his rings, his brooch, and they're collected by someone. Collected by someone played by Christopher, I'm going to say Nemi, N-E-A-M-E. I'm just going to say Nemi. And then I did kind of like this. The camera pans up and we get the old English red Dracula. Then we see an airplane go by. Then it says AD 1972 with funk music. And, you know, we see traffic and cranes in the city. It shows us that it's 1972. But that's really all it does. It doesn't utilize the setting very much. It doesn't do a lot to show us, hey, this is the 70s. Which the music... Let's see who did the music. It was not James Bernard, whose music had been throughout the series. This was done by Mike Vickers. It was directed by Alan Gibson, who would direct the next film, Satanic Rites of Dracula, and the last one I'm doing. That's really all I see. But anyway, yeah, it's not like they do a whole lot to really make, no pun intended, make the 70s like pop, like right out of the screen. Which I guess it's a good thing, because if you contemporize something too much and you use so much of that period, in a few years it's going to be dated. I mean, go watch any of those piece of fucking shit Friedberg Seltzer, you know, blank movies. Like disaster movie, epic movie, superhero movie. Go look at any of those jokes. Oh, hey, there's Lil Jon, there's the Milkshake song, there's Iron Man. Wow, this movie really feels like 2008. So, they didn't go overboard with it, but it would have been nice if they gave us a little bit of the 70s. Because other than the cars and the clothes, there really isn't much. Then we're at this party, this house party, where there's a live band playing funk music. And we're there for a long time. I mean, hell, in the first Godfather, we are at Connie's wedding for like 45 minutes, but at least that's interesting, and you have great characters. All the characters in this movie are fucking bland, or annoying. They're more bland and more annoying than usual. Like, there was this one guy who's the obvious goofball. I thought he was Tiny Tim, the singer. He looked just like Tiny Tim. But then these sort of Manson family wannabe hippies break off, and they're led by this guy, Johnny Alucard, again played by Christopher Nemi. I guess supposed to hint that the guy that took Dracula's shit is an ancestor of his, because Peter Cushing also plays the grandson of Van Helsing. But also, the prologue in this film also cancels out horror of Dracula, cancels out everything. Because the prologue takes place in 1872. And this one was in 1885, I think. So, which Scars of Dracula did reboot the whole series anyway. So, continuity's fucked regardless. They do their satanic ritual. They even have a tape playing. And they really show that tape with the tables turning and the tape going through to show us that it's modern. And then, you know, he cuts his hand, squeezes blood into goblets, has people drink it, he drinks it. And that's another thing about this. It just redoes shit from these movies. Someone witnessing the death of Dracula and then taking his valuables. Taste the blood. Someone conducting a ritual, cutting his hand, and wanting others to drink it. Also taste the blood. And of course, since the guy's name is Alucard, every movie there's an Alucard. There's someone writing it down and either like screwing with the letters or holding it in front of a mirror to show that it's Dracula spelled backwards, because he's just a follower. He's just an occultist. They even did that shit in The Batman vs. Dracula. I will say the Christopher Nemi, whatever his name is, the guy that played Alucard, he had a little bit of charm to him, a little bit, you know, he kind of had like this, not really, and there was another movie recently, a Hammer film that I said this, but I don't remember which one it was. He had like a Malcolm McDowell, Clockwork Orange, Alex kind of vibe. Like he kind of looked like him and he kind of had that charm and vibe. So I give him credit there. Peter Cushing, of course, is great as always. Which that was one thing I could say about both Cushing and Lee was Lee always hated being typecasted or being known as, I mean, he liked the title of the man that played Dracula, but he didn't always like returning. Which is funny, they did Scars, so if he ever did want to come back, he wouldn't have to. But Warner Brothers really pushed A.D. in the next one and Scars, and they pretty much made sure Lee was going to be a part of it. But, like, no matter what, Peter Cushing treated every role like he was trying to get an Oscar. So he's still excellent in this. They had a couple more things about how running water could kill a vampire. I thought that was kind of stupid. You can also kill a vampire with silver, which sounds like they're kind of trying to stretch it a little bit. But Dracula was killed with a knife in Bram Stoker's novel. Not saying this is the gospel for vampires and folklore, but it is for Dracula. And so you have like the opening with Cushing and Lee, that's good. You have the ending, that's good, but the middle, because I mean there's like a 45 minute period with no Peter Cushing. It's another film where Lee doesn't really have a lot to do or say. Fucking knows. People are starting to comment now, so people are starting to notice. I'm just reading up on something. I was just reading about the production, and even the production, there's nothing interesting to say. I guess it was originally going to be called Dracula Today. And then they, of course, here in the US, they gave it stupid taglines. Past, present, or future, never count on the count. And welcome back, Drac. Also, you have Stephanie Beacham playing the granddaughter of the present-day Van Helsing. So I guess the great-granddaughter of the original Van Helsing. And of course, that's like the beautiful woman that Dracula is drawn to throughout the whole film that he's trying to get to. And it pretty much just leads up to, and of course you have Cushing again telling the legend of the vampire, what he is, where he came from, how to stop him. That's where they add in the running water and the silver. He does kill Alucard with a knife. Alucard does become a vampire, but he kills him with a knife. And apparently, like, they gave the whole thing about you can kill a vampire with silver. So Van Helsing stabs Dracula, but then when Van Helsing's granddaughter comes up, pulls the knife out of him, he's fine. So it'll kill him, you just gotta leave the knife in him. But then he does this big trap with spikes, and Dracula gets thrown onto the spikes, and Cushing just forces him down the spike with a shovel. It's bloody, it's great, it doesn't save the film. It's a great scene, it's awesome. So, like, the idea of bringing Dracula into, you know, contemporary 1970s was probably a good idea at the time, but they didn't really do anything with it. All they really did was pretty much to say, well, I mean, by 72, I don't think it was really the 70s yet. Like, I don't think it was I don't think disco had really exploded yet, or like afros and bell bottoms. But it was really just like, hey, let's just put Dracula where people have cars and televisions and airplanes and see what happens. Even on the cover, they really try to make it look all modern, but they didn't really do anything with it. That's the thing. And worst of all, it's boring. It's not entertaining. That party scene is really long. I can watch almost an hour of Connie's wedding in The Godfather. That's because, one, it's a great movie. Got great performances, interesting dialogue. This movie doesn't have that. It's definitely the worst one on this set. These three movies kick the living dog shit out of this one. I mean, I don't hate Dracula A.D. 1972. I don't hate it. I just think it's a very, very, very weak film. And it kind of makes me not look forward to the Satanic Rites, because that's directed by the same guy. And, well, I'm pretty sure the 7 Golden Vampires one will be the worst, but Yeah, if it sounds like I didn't really go in depth with this, it's because there's not really much to say. It's just, hey, we got Dracula in the 70s, and we're doing all the same shit you already saw. Plus, Peter Cushing's back. Isn't that awesome? It's pretty bad when even Peter Cushing can't save the film, even though he is still... I mean, Peter Cushing is always on his A game, and he is in this. But it's not enough to save it. Yeah, I was not a fan of this film. But anyway, thank you for watching.